Hi everyone. Okay, so in this video on anger, we're going to talk a little bit more and expand a bit further on the topic that anger is in fact not a primary condition. And in a sense, it's not really a condition that exists on its own, but it's a secondary condition. And so, as I've mentioned previously, the first condition or the primary condition is hurt and sadness. So that's what happens first. In other words, we feel hurt by life. And that could be from a conversation that we're having with someone, could be a situation, whatever it is, but the hurt kicks in or hurt is triggered in us, or we feel sad. They're words to describe the same thing, so I use hurt and sadness interchangeably sometimes. Okay, so what do we do with that hurt? Well, if we don't know how to deal with the hurt, then effectively that's when the anger starts to kick in, because anger is a go-to because it hardens us and takes the edge off the hurt that we're feeling. So anger in itself doesn't truly exist if we don't have a hurt to begin with. And that's why it's so critical to understand that it is not a standalone condition. If you have anger issues, or if you know someone who does, they're not really angry. And that's the point of what I'm saying all of this here. You've got to see that person as someone who's sad or someone who's just hurt. And yes, they're using anger as a way of trying to cope with that. And in so doing, it could be creating collateral damage in their life. In other words, pushing a lot of people away or creating other issues, arguments, fights, etc. But if you see that person as an angry person, then you're not really going to get to the bottom as to why they're angry in the first place. It's firstly seeing that the anger is used as a form of control to deal with their hurts, and that the only real way of dealing with someone, or dealing with yourself even if anger is an issue for you, is to start to look at your hurts and talk to someone or get support on what's actually really going on. Because otherwise, the only other way to deal with anger is just by simply managing the symptoms. Or I should say merely managing the symptoms. And we can do that, and there are many techniques and strategies around anger management, but really they're band-aid approaches because they don't truly address the underlying issue that's truly driving the anger. Whereas I would say, let's tackle it from both ends, So, if you find yourself angry and you feel like having an argument with your partner, in that moment, absolutely, to the best of your ability, don't argue, because that's something that isn't going to work in the long term. It's likely to lead to escalation, etc., etc. But more than just controlling what you say or, lowering your voice tone so you're not coming across as loud or something like that, all of those sort of strategies, even just exiting the situation, so you take yourself away, those strategies are great because that helps to cut the music, so to speak, and they act as circuit breakers so that you're not continuing along that same fashion in expression in terms of something that's likely to lead to more escalation. But it's also important to then address what's actually driving the anger in the first place. In other words, what got you to that situation, in the first place. And you'll find that that's an underlying hurt that's been triggered. And in that hurt, in you perhaps not realizing how to deal with that hurt, or not knowing how to deal with it, whatever it might be, but then the anger is used as a form to cope and manage the situation. And that's where, if you deal with the hurts, then all of that can be prevented in the first place. Okay, so talking about anger being a secondary condition is, as I've said, super important, and it gives us a completely different perspective now in terms of how we're going to address it. And that's what we're going to talk more about in future videos. So stay tuned, and I look forward to seeing you soon.